Survivor's ready. Go!
Tribe has spoken.
Boston Rob and Amber are gonna do it.
This is a business trip, as I like to say.
You, Brad Culpepper.
I'm tired of you and the fucking chicken.
You can call me the puppet master. They can be my little puppets.
It's not like you're making a deal with the devil here.
You get to milk your own milk, I guess.
Who the hell voted for me?
Chicken.
We got enough rocks here, too. We could build a pretty decent shelter just using rocks.
I'm supposed to talk Lima to you. You understand that better?
Direct from Hobart, it's time for the only Survivor podcast in Australia dedicated to Survivor, bringing you all the latest interviews, episodes, and opinions from the greatest reality show on the planet. It's Survivor Oz, and here's your host, Ben Waterworth.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Survivor Oz for our Season 31 Cambodia Second Chance recaps, and this is, of course, Australia's only Survivor podcast that is guest hosted by a Canadian this week, because I'm Colin Hilding, filling in for Ben Waterworth, who's unavailable this week, and we know we set up last week, we were going to have Trish on here to do the recap, but some scheduling fell through for her, so we have a guest recapper this week, and by popular demand, we've been giving you the hashtag Bring Back Billy hashtag for the whole year. And the hashtag seems to have worked, unfortunately for the wrong show, but we'll take what we can get. Billy Garcia returns to recap this week.
How you doing, Colin?
I'm doing good. I'm excited about this because you're the dependable one who we can always rely on to give an entertaining recap. And I believe the last time you did a recap with us was for San Juan del Sur. Is that right?
I think so. You're testing my memory here, but yeah, I think so.
Well, we will have a bit of a recap on your last recap later on in the show, just to see how you did on your predictions, and we'll get some predictions later on. But just as we get started here, first, just your initial impressions on the season as a whole. We're 3 episodes in so far, and how are you finding Cambodia Second Chances so far?
I find it very entertaining. It's very Jeff Varner heavy, so I don't know if he's getting the Tony edit or if it's more of a classic edit where we're going to see the story of his self-destruction. But either way, it's going to be very entertaining. It's already good.
Yeah, there definitely is a lot of Varner so far. I mean, we saw him kind of in the middle on the first episode and definitely on top the second episode, and this week's more on the bottom, so no matter where he is, he's kind of just the go-to guy this season, as I guess a lot of seasons have, like you said, Tony edit. This past week's episode, we're a couple days behind on the recap, but it's probably still fresh in your memory. So episode 3, we had the tribe switch up and everything. So how did you find the whole episode for the tribe switch up?
Well, what I liked about it was that it was not a traditional tribe switch up. Usually it's the other way around where you condense from 3 to 2. We did it backwards this season, and we went from 2 to 3. So that was a good dynamic. It took somebody like a Stephen Fishback and gave him new life, and just the opposite happened in it for a few people, including one of my favorites, Terry Deeds. But he's Captain America, so he's the eternal optimist. He didn't look at it as a negative.
Yeah, for sure. I guess Terry would be the closest to your season that we have on this year, too. Or were you familiar with him going into the season? Did you know him at all?
Yeah. He and I are buddies, and while we're at it, I'd like to wish him a get well soon to his son, who I got to know at a dodgeball event here in New York City. Yeah, Terry and I are buddies. We've hung out many, many times, and of course that means I'm rooting for him. But, He came in with a target on his back, being one of the greatest challenge performers of all time. But instead of seeing that as his main part of his edit, we're seeing something new from him, and that's exciting.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of players who are kind of using this second chance and switching up their game. And, we won't get too much into the previous week, but we obviously saw with Shirin the dangers of not switching up your game. And I think the biggest thing that stood out this week was definitely Spencer. Like, as soon as the episode started, I noticed that Spencer was, immediately like, he could have been full of it for all we know, but he was immediately like, I'm changed. I want to work with you guys and everything. And of course, the tribe switch up happened, and he actually did get a bit of a second chance. But how are you finding Spencer so far, or even just these players? Do you find the majority of the players are successfully adapting, or are you seeing more the opposite, that there's a lot of people who are having trouble changing their game?
I don't see it as so much trouble changing their games. We saw going all the way back to the first week, Vitas attempt to do something that worked for him in the first go around, completely backfire and help his elimination. So yeah, I think with the first couple of boots, we sort of see the theme play out of second chances and what are you going to do with it? Are you going to be more of the same, or are you going to change things up? Being more of the same is working for Andrew Savage. Mm-hmm. So it's it kind of depends on who you're surrounded by. For Sharin and for Vitas, it was definitely not the right move to stay the same. With Spencer, he was always a chameleon. We saw that his first go around with the Brains tribe and how it was a nonstop failure and then Brains versus Bronze versus Beauty, and he adapted and he changed. And so I think we're seeing that now. I think this whole thing about him opening up and being emotional and telling the story about his girlfriend saying "I love you" and him not willing to say it back. I think he looked deep within himself and found the most emotional thing he had in his life at the time, and he's using that as a sort of a way to bridge some gaps with some other emotional players like Jeremy, who's very emotional.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it definitely did work for him this week. I like that you mentioned Savage having more trouble adapting his game, because it's not something I've heard a lot of this week, but it was the first impression I had. As soon as they threw the tribes out there and said, you guys are switching to 3 tribes now, the Savage was that he went kind of into that mopey mode he had, like in Pearl Islands, where it was, I'm not really happy about this. And like, I'm thinking to myself, like, just be quiet for just a second. You were doing so well. Don't tell everybody how miserable you are. Was that kind of what you were seeing from him this week again? Like maybe being a little bit too vocal about things that are uncomfortable for him?
Yeah, there's one thing I would have to say about Survivor players, no matter how many times you come back, is you can't escape yourself. So at some point you're going to be you. No matter how much you try to be someone else, at some point you're going to be you. And I think that's what we're seeing with Andrew in this episode with the switch up, is that we've reached that point where he's being himself, and it's not necessarily a good thing in this situation. When things don't go his way, he tends to pout and be like you said, very moody and very negative.
With this one, like you said, and I agree with you, I love the idea of them switching the tribes up to 3, like adding tribes as they go along, as long as it doesn't continue every week. Like we were talking about, like, if it reaches week 7 and we're now at 5 or 6 tribes, and maybe it's gone too far. But looking back even at your season where it was the opposite, it started with a whole bunch of tribes. You started with 4 and then they dropped down to 2. I almost wonder whether your season would have gone better if they had done just 2 tribes in the beginning and then decided to split you up. Like, can you imagine how the dynamics could have been differently if they did that in Cook Islands?
Yeah, I would have lasted way longer.
Yeah.
I mean, I could just, just looking at the people that were on other tribes, like Sekou, for example, he and I are both musicians, one conversation, and we'd had an alliance. Me, Cowboy, and Flicka, we both have that free spirit and non-9-to-5 type attitude. We would have bonded immediately. So there's a lot of matchups that would have worked out well for me. I just happened to be in the one matchup where it was 4 Californians and 1 New Yorker, and I was the 1 New Yorker. So, the common ground wasn't there in my favor. I was the odd man out, like Sesame Street. One of these things is not like the other. I was the one of these things. So a two tribe format would have been great for me.
And then the other thing with adding the tribe that I find is, like, especially in this season, which they're treating it like a full All-Star season, and All-Star seasons, I mean, I think the most important thing is you want to keep the players on their toes, because they're all going to come in very prepared, and everybody knows the game inside and out, and you really do want to see them switch things up. And having this twist where, your alliances were solid, usually these players are probably expecting the twist, I would assume, maybe 4 or 5 episodes in, definitely not at the 3rd episode after the second boot. And then to have them switch up to a 3rd tribe, I mean, everybody's scrambling, and I think that's nothing but good for the game, that everybody has to reinvent themselves so quickly.
Well, I have a theory that my season was the most twist-heavy season of all time because of the everybody trying to be politically correct because of the race twist, mm-hmm. And that made for a very boring cast as far as the people that made it deep into the game and made the game interesting. Because if you look at who made it deep, like Becky Lee and Sundra and Yule, who won it all, and these aren't like the most exciting personalities in Survivor history ever. So it definitely added something to the season. And so now, if you take that same approach and go twist heavy on a season that's very personality heavy, like we have here in Second Chances, now I think that makes for one of the better seasons ever. That's what I think. That's at least what I liked about Heroes versus Villains. That it wasn't just relying on the personalities. Like, they threw some stuff out there.
Yeah, and a lot of the players have had their games changed up and they recovered very quickly. Like, I didn't really notice any missteps with Jeremy. It just seemed like, it didn't bother him at all, despite the fact that he really has no clue who's on his side this time. And then you get another player like, Kelly Wentworth, who you're talking about great twists that are just changing the game up and making them think on their toes. The idea that these immunity idols, that there's just the clues for them. She had the idol and she was in a great spot. And then all of a sudden, she's now in the minority on Tribe. And the first thing we really saw from her was her kind of go after Terry. And we had a lot of debates about this on our live episode last week. Do you think that was the best strategy for her, to maybe try to plant the possibility of an idol on Terry, considering he might be her only ally in this game? Or, is that something that, was maybe like a last-ditch effort that could possibly be the only way she's staying in the game?
I think with her, it was all that she could think of at the moment. She was feeling pressure, and I think she tried to come up with something, and that was the best that she could do. If she had like a day to plan it out, she probably would have came up with something different. But having to think on her feet, come up with something. She saw Terry separated from the group, so that meant that his name was going to come up in some way, and this is the way that it came up. As for it, whether or not it's a good strategy or not, I think it was an unnecessary strategy. I don't think she had to do it, but you could hear in her confessionals that she was feeling the pressure to do something.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And the thing that we had most debates on this past week, and I've had this debate even with other people just offline and everything, about the fact that she has this idol, and by her even throwing the idea out there that somebody has an idol, what happens when you have a majority alliance and then there's two people on the bottom? They're going to try to split the vote. So it's almost like she set herself up where now she has to play the idol next week. At the same time, I was thinking, well, there's a chance she'd probably have to play it anyways, if she's a smart player, but she's kind of stuck on the bottom now, and it could go one way or the other, where if they go to tribal council, she has to play her idol and then is flushed out, or maybe she doesn't. But the other half of it was Terry was going on and on about how they're such a strong tribe now. I think it's Takeo that is the new one they have. And he was going on about how they're never going to lose a challenge and everything. When you saw how the tribes shook up, if we'll just remind people here, Angkor, who of course went on to lose, was made up of PG, Tasha, Abi-Maria, Wu, Savage, and Varner. Then there was Bayon, which was Wigglesworth and Monica, Kimmy, Steven, Jeremy, and Spencer. And then Takeo, who was boasting, we're going to be the strong tribe, is Joe, Terry, Sierra, Cass, Keith, and then Kelly Wentworth. When you saw the tribe shake up, were you thinking there was one that had an advantage over the other, or was it Takeo, or do you think that it could be still pretty even all the way through?
One of the first things I always look for when there's a tribe shakeup is which tribe has too many of the same parts. Because for a tribe to be strong, you have to have people that are strong runners, strong with balance, strong swimmers, strong with puzzles, strong with knot untying and digging. And you want to have a little bit of everything. You don't want to have like all muscle guys, because that's what happened with Pagan. Pagan was all these athletes, and then when they got hit with things like puzzles and stuff, nobody could handle it.
Yeah.
When they got hit with things where they had to figure something out, there was nobody to figure anything out. So they got destroyed by a tribe that was more well-rounded. And that's what the first thing I look for when there's a tribe mix-up. And Terry's tribe, I understand he's military-minded. So the way he looks at it is very, I was in the military myself, so I understand the way he looks at it is who, this is a tribe that has a lot of good people in shape. Doesn't have people that are terribly that much older. Their age group is relatively close by to one another. So he was looking at it from that angle, and I was looking at it as like, is this foreshadowing when he's talking about how strong the tribe is? Are we going to see like a series of challenges where they just one blunder after another and they get picked off because like they all have the same part? They all have basically the same type of players within a challenge. So I'm looking at that and I'm wondering.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that. Because if you do look at them on the surface, they do have, like, Joe is obviously a huge challenge performer. Terry, that's what he's known for. Keith, I mean, he was amazing in challenges in his season, but it really is a lot of people who are good at the same type of challenges. And
exactly.
Yeah, so they might need that variety later on. And Angkor, who's being set up as like the losers, they obviously didn't do so good this week, but they have a bit more variety. You have some brainy people in there like Tasha, obviously, and you have muscle like Wu, so they may actually have more variety to them. So I'd be interested to see if that is foreshadowing too, because I mean you probably have watched enough seasons, and even just being on your own season, and probably a lot of things came out differently than they transpired on the island the way that you perceived it. You probably are a little bit more open to how the edit to setting certain things up than other people.
Yeah, that's one of the. I look at Survivor in two different ways. It's like each one of my eyeballs sees it different, and the one way is I see it as a fan where I'm watching the edit, and this is the story of the season, and then the other way is I see it as a former player where I'm like, all right, who's being set up here to be the Wile E. Coyote, and who's being set up here to be the Golden Boy. Mm-hmm. So that's the way I saw it. I was the Wile E. Coyote and Ozzy was the Golden Boy on my team.
Yeah.
So that's the way I kind of see it as a former player. But I'm looking at these tribes and I'm thinking to myself like even though they lost this week, the only weakness on that tribe is Abi-Maria, where you look at her and say, what does she contribute in the challenges really? Like, what's her strong suit in a challenge? And I can't think of anything offhand. So I see her as the only weak link. If they could hide her in some way, then they might go on a winning streak after this one loss.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see if that's how the season plays out. With Bayon, there was not much going on their camp compared to the other two. I think there was a lot less drama. We mentioned Jeremy and Spencer. It was a really good move on Spencer's part and something that actually seemed to work. Steven's the only other player who really got a lot of airtime this week. But as you said in the beginning, it was kind of new life for him. How do you see things potentially playing out with Steven? Do you think that reputation of, the guy searching for the idol or the guy who's just struggling to make friends out there is going to follow him? Or do you think that he could potentially break out from this point on?
I think Steven's going to benefit from there being 2 immunity wins per challenge. So I don't see him going to tribal council until much, much later. Mm-hmm. He may not finish, that tribe may not finish first, but I don't think they'll finish last very often, if at all. So I don't know. I think with Steven, I'm seeing him more as a middle of the pack player right now, to where he's good, he's great, or he's very good at what he does, but he has very little to work with.
Yeah.
So he's kind of reminding me of Eliza in Micronesia, where she's a good player, but she had nobody to work with, so she ended up in the middle of the pack.
Yeah. Also, like the type of person who's maybe so smart and so knowledgeable of the game that it's going to scare a lot of people off, and maybe that's one of the reasons why he hasn't found that ally yet, or he hasn't found a JT at this point yet.
Well, with JT, it kind of reminds me of Rob Cesternino and Matthew. Mm-hmm. You kind of have to have that player that wants to be like, do the buddy cop movie within Survivor. They want to play good cop to somebody else's bad cop, and that's their strategy. Didn't work out for Matthew, but it worked out for JT. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I just don't see that kind of player in this season at all. There's a lot of players that want to do chess moves instead of the good cop, bad cop. The more simplistic approach to Survivor. Maybe Andrew Savage would probably be that kind of player. But is he really playing? I don't know. I don't think he is. I think he's just there.
Yeah. Well, Savage is an interesting one because he's kind of been one of those players that's spearheading this whole old school thing. You're talking about reading into the edit, and one of the things that was very clear in at least the first 2 episodes, maybe less than this, is that whole old school versus new school thing. And I don't think anybody really expected that the old school players would kind of dictate the pace of this game the way they did. Do you think that's something that's going to continue, or does this week kind of show a bit of a shift where that new school, fast-paced, cutthroat strategy is going to maybe take over?
Well, in Blood versus Water 1, we kind of saw that play out, where you had Colton, the new school player, and he was surrounded by old schoolers, and it just backfired on him to the point where he just couldn't hack it anymore and he quit.
Yeah.
It seems like the old schoolers have this knack of being able to slow the game down. To be honest with you, I'm not even sure how that skill works out and how you pull that off. Even though technically as a season 13 guy, I guess I qualify as an old school player, but I had a more new school mentality where I was making multiple alliances. And if you see the recap episode on my season, you get to see me make alliances with the women, make alliances with the guys, and I was very much like a new school player and just in the wrong era.
Yeah.
But
are you saying you could have sided with Colton in Blood versus Water?
You know what? I would have saw him as more of a viable person to play with than as much as I love Tina as a person, we're buddies. Like Tina has a very let's just sit here and talk about the grass growing. that would make me antsy like it would have Colton. So yeah, I would have totally been more on Colton's bandwagon than Tina's in Blood versus Water. Having said that, I think what we're seeing is a merge of the two strategies where Spencer might be the new breed of player who does the bonding and the connecting and the slow moving style of the old school players while still being the chess player and the throat slitter and of the new school style. So I think that's what might be the story of this season, is the emergence of a third school.
Yeah. Oh, it would be the right time, I guess, heading into season 31 now, so you can divide them up and everything.
Yeah. It's sort of like decades within seasons instead of years.
Yeah, exactly. Angkor, obviously, they lost the challenge, as I guess even they seem to expect they were going to lose the challenge. I don't know if it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, but
probably.
One of my now favorite moments in Survivor history happened right after the challenge, where Varner was throwing the verbal, signals or whatever, mouthing signals to Kelly, and it completely backfired him, and Tasha jumps in the middle, waving her hands, "We got a rat." How did you find that whole situation?
Do you want the truth?
Yeah, for sure.
I damn near stood up out of my chair and yelled at Varner, "It didn't work for me either!" So yeah, for our mental note for all future Survivor players: do not mouth anything to players on the other tribes. Whatever you do,
don't try to read in too much to what other players may be saying to you or mouthing to you as well.
Yeah, I bet you Varner was kind of pulled into that, where Kelly took a look at him and just stared, and so then he felt like he had to say something or do something. So I bet you he got pulled in. But you got to save that for when the other tribe is, your own tribe is either not there, not paying attention, busy doing something, or just save it until you merge. Yeah. That's probably the best time, is to save it until you merge.
Yeah, well, why don't we see them trying that when Jeff's in the middle of giving the instructions or something? Everybody's going to be paying attention to Jeff. That would be the best opportunity, not right after the challenge is over and everybody's just standing there looking around at everybody.
There's a gag order we're under when Jeff is doing the spiel.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because if it was up to a guy like me or Fair Play or whatever, we'd totally trip up Jeff if we could. Every time we start, "Do you want to know what you're playing for?" We would be like, "Doing just to mess with him and mess up what he's saying." But no, there's a gag order, so we can't play with Jeff that way, or we can't say anything. But I would say the best time to say something to a player is on a head-to-head challenge where you're locked up with the other player, and then you could just, while you're wrestling or doing whatever, then you could just whisper a quick 2 or 3 words or something. But I wouldn't do it like how I did it, where technically my tribe didn't realize I had done it. I actually picked a good time.
Yeah.
So it's surprising. It's surprising that I picked a good time and it still backfired. But yeah, if like my tribe hadn't thrown the challenge, let's say we had won and I'd have made that move, like that move wouldn't have been the whole "I love you, you love me," whatever it was. it would have been like you and me to the end, and my tribe wouldn't have saw it.
Yeah. Well, we saw it work for Mike last year. Like you were saying, do it very discreetly in a head-to-head challenge with him and Kelly, where he's just sort of whispered, I'm giving this to you or whatever. So you really do have to pick your spots. The funny thing is, Varner wasn't even subtitled, so we've just been wondering, like, what was he even trying to say to her? Because, I don't know, maybe this isn't something that's going to come up later, so, the production has nothing to base it on, but, like, I can't even imagine what he was trying to say at Kelly at that point. I mean, obviously I can't read lips. Do you have any theories on it?
I think he was just trying to... I think he was stuttering, which is why there's no subtitle. Because the impression I got was that Kelly got his attention, and then he was trying to reply to what was that attention, like you like trying to get her, you're trying to say something like, what do you want to do? You good? You good? You want to? He didn't know what to say. Like you got the attention. He was kind of caught in the middle, and so there was really nothing to subtitle. It was a bunch of gibberish, but he got busted. That was the real issue.
They're gonna eventually get like a lip reading expert on there, and his subtitles are gonna end up being accurate. Where it's like, Kelly, what are you looking at? They're gonna call me out as a rat if I keep mouthing things to you. And then all of a sudden, Tasha jumps in. We got a rat here.
See, that's when having a deaf player in the game would have been awesome.
Oh yeah, blow everybody's games up. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you make of Tasha this week? Tasha went from completely being on the bottom. I mean, there was really no question. Her and Savage were the minority. And then it seemed, I don't know if it was, partly just with Abi-Maria, but the other part of it was obviously being able to call out Varner, which probably took a lot of balls to do. I mean, do you think it was sort of like an instant thing, or maybe is there stuff behind the scenes? Like, do you think what we saw of Tasha this week was enough to take her from basically the bottom all the way to the top of her tribe?
Well, first of all, Abi-Maria's game is very much the Tasmanian devil on Survivor, where it's just destruction. That's her game. And she just gets wound up and she starts knocking things over, knocking people's games up, blowing people's games up and stuff. And that's what saved Tasha and Savage. I think if Abi-Maria's game was more of a standard game, for sure, Tasha would have been the one to go, and Savage would have stayed just because they want to be strong at challenges. Even though, in my personal opinion, it's the other way around. I think Tasha's stronger in challenges.
Oh yeah,
but you know how it is with the whole chauvinistic point of view, where he's a guy and we need to be strong, so we'll keep the guy. I think that would have played out if it wasn't for Abi-Maria.
It's interesting.
Is that enough to go forward with the two, or is that just a one-time thing?
Yeah.
It might be just a one-time thing.
Yeah, well, it's interesting you referred to her as the Tasmanian devil, because really, I see her game as being very similar to what Cass played last time around. Just, it was intentional with Cass. She wanted to kind of cause this destruction, whereas Abi-Maria is more of an emotional game. Everybody who's getting ahead in this game is doing so as a result of Abi-Maria's moves. And I don't think that Abi-Maria is even intentionally doing it. I mean, she's more of just an emotional player, and I think people are just picking up on this, and maybe they can just read her really well.
Yeah, Cass's game is to view Survivor as standing in the middle of a field of landmines and to shove people into the landmines. That's her game.
Yeah.
And with Abi-Maria, it's not that at all. With Abi-Maria, it's Hurricane Abby. Mm-hmm. She just gets wound up and just starts turning things upside down and inside out. And the hope for her is that she can get to the end because somebody sees her as a goat, and that's her hope. And do you win that way? I don't think so.
Yeah,
I think you're playing Philip Shepard's game at that point, where you're playing for second place. You're playing for that one vote.
And if she's smart enough to go in there and say, every move that happened in the game or every change in power was because of me. And if she can convince people it was intentional, it works. But yeah, otherwise, you're right. I mean, she is the ultimate GOAT at this point. I don't think we've ever seen a GOAT emerge this early in the game as we are with Abi-Maria.
Yeah, maybe, like I mentioned, maybe Philip Shepard. But, yeah, with Philip Shepard, he stood at the end and he tried to convince some people for a hot minute, for a New York minute there that, you know, he knew what he was doing the whole time. He was an FBI agent and he was just playing crazy. And everybody like, yeah, sure you were. And I think that's what will happen to Abby if she tries that move. Everybody in that jury would be like, yeah, I don't buy that for a second, Abby. How's your bracelet? Where's it at now?
Yeah, whose bag did it make it in this week? With the way the vote ended up going down, I mean, basically Tasha and Savage had their pick. And obviously, you know, we saw they went with Abi-Maria. You said, you know, was that a one-time thing or not? Do you think that was a one-time thing, or do you think that them siding with Abi-Maria was the smarter move of the choices they had?
That was it's both. It was the smarter move of the choices they have. It's still going to end up being a one-time thing because Abi-Maria is unstable. Mm-hmm. She's not going to stick with anyone in particular. It's whoever ticks her off that week is she wants out. It's not necessarily who am I in alliance with? How does this get me further? It's not well thought out. Mm-hmm. This is totally just an emotional reaction, knee-jerk reactions by Abi-Maria. So what's the next knee-jerk reaction? I don't see. You know, if they make it further, the two that are on the bottom here, Tasha and Savage, it'll be because they turn on Abi-Maria.
Mm-hmm. Well, could you see somebody like Varner, who we know he's been saying, I'm old school, and I was convinced in episode 1, you know, him saying, I'm so behind was just all putting on a show. Because Varner was the guy who stirred up the fight between Kimmy and Alicia just to get some drama in the camp. Could you see Varner maybe potentially playing on that next week, knowing how Abi-Maria responded to PG with something simple as a bracelet, which I still wonder, did somebody place that in the bag? And he does that just to turn her on Tasha and Savage and strip the power from them again.
Yeah, no, Varner's gonna make moves.
Yeah.
Put it that way. He's gonna make moves. The question is, what move is he gonna make? Is he gonna try to reel Abi-Maria back in? Or is he gonna say, you know what? I can't work with this. I'll just take what I can get, and you know, turn and side with Savage and Tasha and undercut Abby and make himself that part of that power trio. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking the latter because he's that shrewd of a player to where he'll just, sorry Abby, this, you know, they need somebody. This ain't gonna work out with you and me, so sorry Abby, you're the one out. I'm gonna be that somebody.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I could definitely see that playing out. The only one at Angkor who doesn't seem to factor into anything is Wu. And it's so bizarre because, like, every single week he seems to be out of it. And I'm not really sure how that's happening because you have a small number of people in a tribe and Wu's completely out of the loop again, which is exactly what really happened the first time around. What's your read on Wu at this point? Did you know much about Wu outside of the game? Have you met him before?
That's one of the maybe 2 or 3 players that I've not met before, along with Andrew Savage, and off the top of my head, I can't think of who else I might not have met, but Sierra. Wu, to me, is like the ultimate floater. He's the perfect floater. Mm-hmm. He doesn't need to have too much strategy because they'll keep him around just because he's physically fit, and he's strong, and he's a hard worker. So they'll just keep him around for that, so he doesn't have to make decisions. His game is to do exactly what he did the first go-around, float all the way to the end, but this time make the right decision.
Yeah.
When it comes time to make the decision, make the right one. He did everything perfect up until that last moment. Yeah. That's what happens when you're a floater, though, and you get no practice in decision-making.
Yeah. Well, we're seeing a bit more of a backbone with him this season, though. I mean, he kind of stood up for himself with Shirin the first time around. He's saying, this is the first time you've come up to me. And even this week when, you know, the whole thing with Varner the Rat came out, you know, he was very vocal and, I'm so disappointed. But yet it still didn't really transfer as far as any power in the game. So, you know, maybe it is like you said, like, just need to lay back and fly under the radar, because I don't know if he's trying to make moves at this point. It's not working, but something's definitely keeping him out there.
Yeah, he's not trying to make moves. He's trying not to burn bridges. He's trying to stay in the majority and and bob and weave and played Neo in the Matrix where you're dodging bullets like in slow motion.
Yeah.
That's what he's doing. But yeah, his move making his game is basically built on making the move very late, not this early. So he doesn't want to be the decision maker. He'll let Jeff be the decision maker. He'll let anybody else be the decision maker. But so long as it's not him, so long as he gets told what the decision is, he's good.
Yeah. PG was the one that went home this week. Have you met PG outside of the show?
Good question.
Close to
I think I met her I think I met her briefly, but I think it was at a finale after party, so we hardly got to talk. And these finale after parties are very, very loud.
Oh yeah.
Like just to say hello. Like, it's just, hey, hello, hey, you were great on your season. Congratulations. Welcome to the family. All right, later. They're gone.
So perfect to be able to hear whatever Kimmy's saying, basically, right?
Yeah. But
with PG.
No, I might have met PG. Actually, I think I met PG at the 10-year finale.
Oh, okay.
Now that I think about it, which was still loud.
Yeah. Well, what was your feel on her game this time around? Like, she seemed, like, to me, I was a huge fan of her in China. And I wasn't a fan of her initially. It kind of took rewatches for me to get it. But she seemed to play almost like we've talked about a lot of these people, the second chances, they're not changing. Then there's the people where they are changing. And then there's those who are kind of changing a little bit, but maybe just doing too little. And did you find that PG made a lot of mistakes this time around? Or from China to now, what do you see differently with PG? I
think with PG, she never got her game going in this one. She never had a chance to make any kind of plans with anybody. Mm-hmm. She was always on, with her dukes up, having to defend herself against accusations. Yeah. And when you're on defense, it's just like any other game. You're really not getting off any offense. Mm-hmm. And in Survivor, the offense is what's spectacular. Well, in any game, really, the offense is spectacular. But even more so on Survivor, where when you're on defense, you look like you're not making moves when your moves are being made, but they're being made to keep you in the game as opposed to taking someone out. Mm-hmm. And with PG, that was all her moves, was just to try to keep her name, out of people's mouths and try to keep herself out the chopping block. And when you're on defense that much, that early, you're going to go. Yeah, and what made her such a fascinating player in China was that she was on defense, but it was for a different reason. It was because she was a target in the game. And I wonder if this time she just couldn't separate that whole, the personal attacks from Abi-Maria and the fact that it was more of a social misunderstanding than a game thing. Because in China, she had more strategy, so she had some offense. Mm-hmm. It's just her offense was, didn't work. Yeah. but she had offense. In this go around, she had no offense. Mm-hmm. She was strictly on defense the whole time. So it's like I don't know if you watch basketball, but she got posterized. She got slam dunked. Yeah. When you get posterized, you look like you didn't have no offense, because we're not talking about what you did to the basket. We're talking about what was done to you, and then B, your defense wasn't good because you got slam dunked on. Yeah. So that's what happened with PG, and so it's unfortunate because it probably means she won't get another shot, mm-hmm. but it doesn't mean that she's not a good player. It's just she never got going. Yeah, that is the hard thing, I guess, on a returning player season, is that if you have somebody who really made a big impression the first time and the second time they kind of go out with no impression at all, it would make it harder to come back. I think, you said Tina. Tina's probably one of the few people who was able to recover from just an abysmal performance the second time around. Yeah, I agree. And Sugar is kind of like the poster girl for that very phenomenon. Yeah. Where she had a great show in the first time, an abysmal show in the second time, and not even being considered after that. Yeah, exactly. So, do you think? I feel you. My theory with PG, this goes all the way back to episode 1, and this is what I almost expected her to do, is when the whole thing came up with the bracelet in the bag, she must have seen Philippines. She must have known the whole thing with Pete, and the RC and Abi-Maria thing, planting the bag. Wouldn't it have just been the perfect strategy for PG to be like, somebody out here has planted this, and you get Abi-Maria on your side, or go the other way around and, say somebody's planted this, and, or Abi-Maria's making this up because she's just trying to repeat her storyline from the first time. It just, I don't understand how it didn't even enter her head to try that, to turn it into strategy. Yeah, I think her defense was to make it just a quick apology and not a big deal, and never talk about it again.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was her defense in that case. Did she see Philippines? You know, just because a person played Survivor doesn't mean that they watch it religiously.
Yeah.
There might have been, this might have been a case where it did her some good to have watched like a lot of Survivor. So I'm not sure if she did or not.
Yeah, she could have given up on it a couple of seasons after or something.
Oh yeah, or even once you know that you're in the player pool, you know everybody that's in that pool. This was an advantage.
Mm-hmm.
She should have went back and watched everybody's game.
Yeah, maybe that's.
And I don't think
come up.
Yeah, I don't think she did watch Abi-Maria, or at least rewatch it. I don't think she at least rewatched it.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to get to a final set of questions on this season, but before we do that, we mentioned, I'm pretty sure the last time you were on with Samuel and Del Sur, you did a dual recap with Rita, and it was
Rita.
episode 10, I believe it was. So,
no.
How do you probably don't remember, but based on your intuition of the game and everything, and confidence in yourself, how do you think you went for your predictions?
My predictions, I probably predicted like the final five, or at least a few people in the final five, but I probably didn't pick the winner. But I'm good at picking at who can float to the end. Who's got that kind of skill?
Well, I'm happy to report that on one of them you had a decent answer.
Okay.
Your prediction for who was next to go was John or Baylor, and obviously they went a little bit further. Your tip to win was Reed. Unfortunately, he was gone the next week.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I liked Reed too. That's a shame.
But your dark horse prediction, so kind of, who could potentially slip under the radar, was Jacqueline, and she went all the way to the final three. So
yeah, there you go. Yeah.
If you're going to switch it up this time around, I'll ask anybody who's trying to keep score at home that Billy's probably going to be a lot better with his dark horse prediction than his tip to win. So
yeah. You know what? I think it's because I relate to the dark horse more. If you looked at my season going in, I think I would have fell into that category where a lot of people were looking at picking Adam of all people to be the winner for my season way back then, and I was looked at as a character that would stick around just because he's a character.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, again, just getting off of the season for a second, onto your season, I mean, you said yourself, not exactly the biggest personalities have made it to the end. You could almost include Adam in there, too. The thing that always stuck out for me with your season was that it was the big personalities who all went early. It was like you and Cowboy, who could have easily been stars on any other season.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then what's great about Cowboy was that's the dude that came up with the splitting of the vote strategy, Plan Voodoo. So if you think about it, if you remove the crazy story of how he came up with it, he's actually a very good strategic player that masks it well with his character, with his personality.
Too bad you never got a chance to play with Cowboy. If they had switched the tribes up differently, then you and Cowboy could have gone all the way to the end.
Yeah, because with me and Cowboy, I could tell you from personal experience since the game, me and Cowboy, like, he calls me his brother from another mother.
Oh, nice.
So we would have totally bonded, and we would have had like a to the end type deal right from the beginning. If we'd have started like in two tribes or whatever, and we'd have been on the same tribe, for sure we'd have stuck together. And then you stick me, Cowboy, and Flicker together, that's a threesome that would have been impregnable. That would have been the final three.
Yeah, Flick is a better choice because you don't want Candace getting in the middle there. I don't think that would have worked out so well.
You know what's funny about Candace is in any other scenario where there would have been no throne challenge or whatever, like I could totally see like Candace and I would have ended up on the I2 tribe, and yeah, she still would have tried to reconnect with Adam because that was her real alliance. With her, Adam, and Poverty, but I would have just being Candace's extra vote would have kept me around to at least emerge. Mm-hmm. And with Candace and Jonathan Penner in the same tribe, for sure.
Plus, having those kind of unpredictable alliances, the ones where you wouldn't expect two people to go together. I mean, if we're talking about even all-star seasons here, I mean, that's usually what works. It's putting people like, Rob and Amber together, or putting people like Cochran and Dawn together, ones you wouldn't necessarily expect to go all the way.
No, I agree. So, yeah, I'm saying this while I'm assuming that Rero would have lost as many challenges with me in the game as it did without me in the game. So, if we would have went to Tribal Council a lot, then I probably would have still stuck with Cowboy and Flicka and Sundra and that whole group of misfits, as I like to call us. We hail from the island of misfit toys.
There's always a chance for second chances season 2, I guess, right?
Yeah. You never know. They might one day bring back the Cook Island twist, but with returning players as the big twist of it.
Oh, yeah.
If that's the case, there's only so many Hispanics that have played this game.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'll definitely be in the running.
You're a lock. We do have the listener questions. As we said, our listener questions were geared towards Trish this week, so sorry to all the people who gave Trish questions, but a couple can apply to you if we just change the name in here.
All right.
Obviously, the most asked question we get is whether or not you were asked back for second chances. So were you ever in the consideration, or did you even receive a phone call or an email about this?
When Second Chance's idea and Cave was kind of still on the table, they asked a bunch of us to re-up our contact info. Mm-hmm. But that was like the pool was still kind of big at that point. And I was part of that big pool, but when they started narrowing it down, then I didn't hear from them. So at some point when they were narrowing it down, I missed the cut. I really can't tell you where because I'm not in on those meetings, and they don't bother telling us you missed the cut, Billy. Sorry, they don't bother with that. You just kind of figure out when you don't hear from them anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, that in that sense, so I went out early. There's a little rumor that floated around over at Hearts of Reality, which, by the way, when I was there, I was being recruited for The Biggest Loser.
Oh, really?
Which is kind of why I was playing with letting the weight kind of go up. Now I'm going to do the opposite. Okay, that didn't work out. I missed the final cut on The Biggest Loser. I hear another Survivor made it on, so we'll see. Yeah, I missed the final cut of Biggest Loser, so now I got to lose the weight so that I can be in consideration for Survivor again. So
you're just shooting yourself in the foot trying to get on these reality shows.
You're probably right. But yeah, the rumor there was that the whole Tyson Sophie thing on Twitter was that they understood that the cut was about to happen and they were just messing with my chance of getting on. Yeah, so I don't know if that rumor is true or not, but if it is, they're jerks anyways. I didn't think of them as nice people in the first place.
Well, we do have 2 more questions here, which we'll see if we can retool for you. Spencer Frassard originally asked, Trish, you know that you're awesome, right? So I guess a dual question here. I'm going to assume he also thinks that you're awesome. So do you know that you're awesome, Billy?
Well, to Spencer, I'd like to say hello, and I'm sorry that, Trish, you're the player you wanted to ask isn't here. I'm a very, very distant constellation. I'm the turtle wax.
Now you're the turtle wax of Survivor Oz.
I'm the turtle wax now. We changed it up. We switched it up. Do I know that I'm awesome? I'm too humble a guy. I'm not the type of person that walks around with a massive ego and thinks that their crap don't stink. I'm more the self-deprecating humor kind of guy. So, do I know that I'm awesome? I think I'm an awesome beer connoisseur. How's that? I know good beer when I have some.
Well, let's see if you can get on Spencer's good side here. Then, do you know that Trish is awesome?
You know what? I have met Trish multiple times, and she is awesome. I got the last time I got to hang out with her was at Rodney Bowl, which is Rodney's. Oh, yeah. From last season. It was his charity in Boston, which it was a cool charity. And Trish is from the area, so she showed up, and we reconnected. We had gone to a different event before, and she's always fun to hang around with. We joke around quite a bit. It's always a laugh a minute when we're together. So yeah, she's totally awesome.
Well, one of our most frequent listeners and commenters and questioners, Zachary Chong, who actually has a segment named after him now on our show, he asked Trish if she could give us her signature laugh. Seeing as you've met her in person, can you give us a Trish signature laugh?
Well, first of all, Zachary, hey, how's it going? Sorry, I'm not Trish. Dude, can I do Trish's signature laugh? I'm going to do a very, very bad impression of her laugh here. That's a very bad impression. I'm more better at doing my own laugh, which is basically in between every word.
Well, our segment that we started was Guess the Song Zachary Chong, which we do on our live episodes, and now we're going to have Guess the Laugh Zachary Chong, and you can tell us, was that Trish or was that Billy as Trish? So you'll never know.
You'll never know.
So we'll get to the final set of questions here, and, we saw how some were better than others for San Juan del Sur, so we'll see how it goes this time. If you had to pick at this point, who do you think is your tip to win the season for Second Chances?
Who do I think is my tip to win? I'm going to surprise you. Even though this has been the Jeff Varner show, I'm going to go with Spencer.
Spencer, nice. I'd like to see that happen. I love a turnaround story like you were saying earlier.
Yeah, I think this is the evolution of Spencer and the evolution of the new school, or whatever this latest school is going to be called. I don't even know. The Neo School. I don't know.
Yeah, Neo School. This is your more successful bet here, so who's your dark horse to win?
My dark horse. See, I'm careful with this sort of pick. We are not seeing hardly anything of Monica. So if there's any chance at all that Monica is going to get a Sophie type edit where you only see that she exists in the last 4 episodes, before that you don't even know she's there. That might be my dark horse is Monica. I think she'll make it to at least the final 5, and then we'll see a bit of her story of how she got eliminated. But I'm gonna go with Monica as my dark horse because she's non-existent in the edit so far.
Well, we talked a lot on our live episode, or kind of the last couple, about how everybody's preseason pick to win was Monica, based just on that one player that's not really that present coming into the game, that kind of floats under the radar, like Parvati's and everything, and Sandra's are the ones that go all the way. And we're wondering, like, if she ever speaks, then maybe she can live up to that. So, if she comes out like Sophie, like you say, then a lot of us who made her our preseason pick are going to be very happy.
Yeah, I'm just worried that she's going to come off like Cassandra in Fiji, where Cassandra, in her 14 episodes, she had less sound bites than I had in my 2 episodes, and she still lost.
Yeah. Well, based on your read this week, or I guess we could go all 3 episodes so far, and I guess the preview that's going to happen tomorrow, who do you think is going to be the next person to go?
Next person to go. I think, it's hard to predict just because we're at 3 tribes instead of 2 tribes, so there's a less, the odds are less likely, whereas before it's 50-50. This is only 33% chance of being right, but I'm going to go with the storyline is, I think we're seeing the self-destruction or the nuclear explosion of Abi-Maria. And she's going to go in the next few episodes because it's just such a negative edit that I just have to believe that we're watching her crash and burn right now. Like, that's the whole point of the edit, is to see her sort of, come to a spectacular ending of a fiery death where where her game shatters into a million pieces and she cries as her torch is getting snuffed and she curses as she goes down the walk of shame.
You've made me think of something I hadn't thought of before, but which is that the edit, I mean, when you have a character that is, so big like her, but they do go out early, we often do see them just dominate the screen time like this. Like, look at Colton in One World and everything. So maybe there's something to that the fact that we're seeing so much of her, it is just setting up an early boot.
Yeah, that was my edit. You saw a ton of me, and then the spectacular explosion happened, and burst into flames, and I went down.
Nobody understands Abi-Maria like you do, I guess.
Oh yeah, and Colton.
Here's an interesting question. Which player from your season, now unfortunately this doesn't include yourself, we already talked you up for this, but which player from your season would you like to see have a second chance? Obviously this would be somebody who hasn't returned already, as most of your returning people have returned 3 or 4 times already. So.
Yeah, 3 times each, I think.
Yeah,
you know what? I'm going to throw 2 answers out there. I'm going to throw a male answer and a female answer. How's that?
Okay, good.
And they're both in the same original tribe. The male answer is going to be the obvious Cowboy, because I think I just cited the reason why, because he was a better strategic player than he's ever been given credit for. Back then, the edit was always about the journey, and if he'd have got a modern-day edit we would be talking about his innovation of the splitting of the votes to out a hidden immunity idol. The other player that I would say is Jenny. Just because she was the one who got the message in a bottle twist.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is one of the all-time most cruelest, most unfair twists in Survivor history. Like, that was basically what it's called the message in a bottle twist, but as a player, I call it the Rochambeau twist, where your job is basically to get kicked in the nuts for everybody's viewing pleasure. And that's what happened to Jenny. She got kicked in the nuts and then sayonara.
That's a really good, because, Savage's whole thing was, I got screwed by the Outcast twist. We've had a lot of debates about, Savage kind of got screwed by, after the Outcast twist, maybe not being as open to Lil as he should have been. Jenny's somebody is like, it was completely out of her hands. It is the kick in the nut twist. You're right.
Yeah, no, totally. The two worst twists, in my opinion, are both Asian women. It's Jenny and it's Michelle Yee. They're the two worst twists in Survivor history, where they both got basically outed for no good reason. They didn't stand a chance. You might as well have just said, the producer might as well have just grabbed one of them by the back of the shirt and say, okay, you're out now. Like, what's the point? What's the point of giving us this twist that is just not very viable? It's not believable as a strategic loss.
Well, thankfully, after that cycle of Cook Islands, Fiji, they didn't use it again, so let's hope it doesn't return at any point.
No, I agree. At least Savage, with his elimination, he had a chance. He could have talked his way out of it. I don't buy that Savage is one of the worst twists ever. I don't buy it at all.
Mm-hmm. The final question, I'll just remind you the last time on San Juan del Sur. The question is, which player from the season is playing most similar to you? You answered John Rocker. I think we covered a little bit of this, but maybe you can still surprise us. This season, Second Chances, who's playing most similar to you?
Oh, Abi-Maria, of course.
Yeah, no surprise.
She's a big character that's having a spectacular self-destruction.
Yeah.
There's no other way to put it. She's a suicide bomber right now.
Yeah. You know what? She got her second chance, and we know that Bring Back Billy worked for this week because we got you back on as our guest recapper. So keep Bring Back Billy going, and maybe you can still be out there on Second Chances too.
If I ever do get the chance to go on Second Chances too, I guarantee you that I will not proclaim my love for anyone that season. And I also guarantee that it'll be entertaining, because I can't help it. That's just the way I am. So you won't get a boring season of what I would think of would be the worst season of all time, Yule versus Woo. So
yeah, that would be spectacular.
That would be spectacularly boring. Mind-numbing.
Well, seriously, we did say you were last minute fill-in, but I mean, you're the first choice for a reason, because you always deliver on all these recaps and anytime you're on the show. So thanks for being here, and thanks for talking to me instead of Ben, because I think I'll have more fun with this than you would.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me, and to all the Survivor Ozlets out there, keep being cool. You guys are awesome.
And thank you again to Billy Garcia from Survivor Cook Islands for filling in this week after the scheduling didn't work out for Trish. So I'm not sure if Ben's going to be able to line up Trish again at some point in the future, or what's going on with that. But thanks to everybody who are patient and waiting for this recap to get up. And there's probably about 24 hours to wait now until episode 4 airs. And I'm not entirely sure who's doing the recap this week, so it's going to remain a mystery until Ben announces it. But I do know some of the names that are out there coming up on the recaps, and there's some really good ones. So hopefully we'll be announcing that soon. And you can also tune in to the Oztopsy. I believe it's going to be pre-recorded this week. So all those Catherine and Zachary Chong, who was mentioned in this recap here a couple of times, that are there and loyal every single week. We won't be doing the live one, so you won't be in on the chat, but we will still have a pre-recorded Oztopsy that should be going up probably around the same time. And other than that, be sure to keep checking up on us on Facebook and Twitter, and next week, fingers crossed, Ben will be back doing the recap. So until next time, we will speak to you on the train.